Welcome to Understanding the Unhoused. My name is Joshua. Through a series of interviews with individuals who are experiencing homelessness, my intention with this podcast is to increase compassion and empathy for the unhoused. Though the terms homeless and unhoused can be used interchangeably, I prefer unhoused because it emphasizes that the problem is a lack of affordable housing rather than a personal weakness. When people see an unhoused individual, they can feel fear, anger, apathy, sometimes all three. My hope is after hearing their stories, hearing what it's like for them on a day-to-day basis, it will make it clearer that these are just people. People who, through a combination of bad luck, bad choices, and, let's be honest, a broken system, have found themselves without a roof over their heads. Okay, enough ado. Cyrus reached out to me after I had put a post on the homeless subreddit asking for folks who wanted to have their stories told via my podcast to reach out. Cyrus got in contact and told me their story, and as you may expect, it is full of struggle. They are suffering from a pulmonary disease known as POTS, which essentially speeds up your heart for very little activity. They live in an awful part of Texas, but their attitude and hope for their situation is inspiring. After you listen to the interview, please check the show notes. I have put in their Cash App information. If hearing their story inspires you to help them out financially, you can send them a direct donation. Please enjoy the interview. All right. Thank you very much for joining, Cyrus. How long have you been unhoused?
I would say I've been unhoused since June of this year, early June.
And what are the circumstances that led to this happening?
Well, we used to be seasonal workers, my partner and I. We would travel for work, a lot of places, give like room and board, and we really liked that. And we joined up with a group of travelers. We ended up visiting home, and they ditched us out here. Oh, and wow. We didn't have a real way to get around or do anything.
They just ditched you? Like, you guys were working together and they just vanished?
Well, we had just ended a season, and then we camped for a while because the Grand Canyon's beautiful, and I recommend that to everyone. And we had come down to visit my partner's family for a bit, show them where we grew up, enjoy Texas a little bit, and then head back out to Arizona. We went to bed one night. We woke up in the morning, and our stuff had been thrown on the ground, and they were gone. We were blocked on everything.
Wow, that's crazy. How long have you been doing that kind of work?
We were just done with our second season of it, I believe. We would do like 3 months at a time.
What part of Texas are you in?
We are in deep East Texas. They classify it weird. It's East Texas, but further south. Okay. The town we live in currently accounts for 5% of all assaults in America, so we really have to watch our step. Yeah, Google Lufkin. It's a grim Google.
And that's the town you got ditched in. Have you guys tried homeless shelters in the area?
I've called them. They would either split me and my partner up, and I wouldn't feel safe with that knowing this town, or they're completely full up, and the line starts at like 4 o'clock, and my partner can still work, and we couldn't get there and hold a work schedule. Having a job can take more than it gives for some homeless people. You could lose benefits. You could lose the only housing you can scrape up. It can be a lot.
So what has it been like since this happened to you, just day to day?
For a while, some of my partner's family let us live in a tent in their backyard, but we were recently thrown out because they wanted to do yard work. So for the past 3 weeks, when we could scrounge up enough money for a motel, we would be in a motel, but that's $62 a night. And some nights we would sleep behind like the local office store, or we did find a nice spot under a bridge that we don't find too many people come across, and it's in the middle of town, so, it's a better squat than most places. But the summer was rough. I have POTS and I'm really heat intolerant. So just moving around more than like a mile or two was enough to have my heart rate pounding, and I have to rest constantly. It's been a little hard mentally, but for the most part, we try and focus on what we can do in a day. Mm-hmm. If you look too far forward, it can get a bit depressing.
Yeah. So how are you using your days?
If we are housed, I personally have had hell finding work out here due to gaps in my resume or them not recognizing exactly seasonal work as like any kind of skilled work. So for me, if we are like in a motel the days we can get them, I stay in the room and the door is locked because it's kind of a seedy motel, and I am scouring the internet for any tip, trick, tool, support, anything I can find, and I engage with the homeless community a lot. When we're not housed, we get up at 6 a.m. so that we can't be seen because that's when the sun comes up where we were sleeping. And typically we will walk to a park in town and wait there for a few hours. My partner's work has been nice enough to allow me to hang around him while he's working.
Good.
And then we typically head to our sleep spot at about 10 o'clock at night so no one sees us there. But we don't sleep all that much. It comes in short bursts. I think I've slept maybe 2 hours straight the whole time. When you're out on the streets, it's just any sound can wake you up. Lufkin is not kind about its homeless. It's actually been kind of creepy. When we first started, there was a lot of us, and now we don't see anyone when we're out walking or we're near what would be obvious homeless available spot. And there hasn't been a big economic change in town, and it makes me worry, like, where they went.
Yeah, where did they all go? Unsettling.
I've heard talk online that some Texas cities are busing homeless out to bigger cities.
What advice would you give to someone who all of a sudden found themselves without a place to live?
Stay clean. Don't look homeless.
Okay.
And focus on the little things as well as network. Don't be afraid to tell the people that are close to you what you're going through. Don't be afraid to ask somebody for spare change or if you can bum a light. Some people can be really nice. And then we've found that some family even just has completely washed their hands of us. So it can be, you got to kind of feel people out, but networking helps a lot.
And that was another question I had. Like, can you lean on family at all? But it doesn't sound like you can.
No, I'm trans, so I've been estranged from my family since I was 17. I'm 25 now. And, just since all this happened, the family on my partner's side have just kind of washed their hands of us too.
Okay, so you're trans and unhoused.
Yes.
I mean, it's just adding to the struggle of everything. Like,
yes, very much so. Because now instead of worrying about, like, do I pass for dysphoria reasons, I'm saying, do I pass as a man so I'm safe to walk down these streets when the sun is setting?
Yeah. Wow. Have people actually tried to mess with you in that since you've been unhoused?
I pulled a knife once. I was alone. My partner had ran in to just use the bathroom at a nearby restaurant. And I was minding my business, just on my phone, playing a little offline game, making the time pass. And I look up, and there is a large, shirtless, sweaty man walking at me, like directly towards me. There's the whole park coming straight at me. Wow. And like no words were said. I just pulled the knife out of my pocket and opened it, and he turned and went a different direction. And I can't imagine that intentions there were good.
Yeah, no. I guess it could have been worse.
It definitely could have been worse. I've heard horror stories out here, and I'm very grateful to my partner for the level of protection he gives me. Like, just being beside him and out in the streets makes me practically invisible.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
I've also seen the wear and tear it takes on him because he grew up in this town and he knows how people in this town can be. I've woken up sleeping under that bridge to find him awake holding a knife, just watching to make sure nobody's coming.
Do either of you have kids in your relationship?
I have 2 kids from a previous relationship. I talk to them very often, but I haven't been a safe or healthy place for them with my housing situation. Yeah. So they stay with their father, and I talk to them 2 or 3 times a week. Anytime I can get Wi-Fi, we vid call, we talk. They know who their Cyrus is. They are not in the same town I am in. They live down around the Galveston area. I don't want to give their specific town, but just around the Gulf Coast, around by Galveston, in one of the smaller, like, barrier towns. And they're really happy kids. You know, I gotta hand it to their father. He's a good dad, and I know they're taken care of, and that takes a load off of me to know that they're happy and doing well.
And do they know of your situation? Like, are they old enough to understand what's happening?
No, they're not. They're 5 and 6. They just know that their Cyrus really likes being outside.
Okay. That's not bad. Like, in terms of what you could tell them, that's pretty good, yeah. Now, you said that the town you're in is very unpleasant. Do they have any resources for the unhoused there? Or anywhere nearby?
There are 2 shelters, but they are both church shelters. There's a church one and the Salvation Army, which has been historically known to be pretty homophobic.
Okay.
And we both have had pretty bad experience in churches with the Bible Belt, so we've avoided those. You know, we've got the classic Texas benefits, which helps, but it isn't everything. Yeah. The wait list on affordable housing here that goes by income is almost 2 years long.
Oh my God. And do you need to have a disability or anything like that? Or do they just put you on a wait list?
You simply show that you're low income and you're identifying documents, and they put you on the wait list. Okay. When you eventually get in, it's a good deal. It's only 30% of the household's income, but it's a matter of getting in. Nobody wants to leave because nobody can afford regular rent in this town.
Right. Sorry.
And then there's a food pantry, but it is on the outside of town. So if you wanted to walk to the food pantry and back, you're probably clearing 6 or 7 miles on hot Texas pavement.
Which you can't do, yeah. How could you even... So, how do you survive with that?
For the most part, people have been very kind in terms of food. If you say, I'm hungry, most people will, you know, the individual in this town is kind, but the town itself is not. We also try to make a point to buy shelf-stable food every time my partner gets paid from his job. And we make it last. We go without some days, but you know, we make it last. I've lost probably 40 pounds since this all started.
Wow. It's been taking a toll on your health, I would imagine.
Yes. The POTS was not as bad before this. Now, if my heart rate, if I was to run across the road to like cross the road really quick, I'm wheezing by the end of it. Wow. I can no longer donate blood because I don't have the nutrition in my blood for it to be feasible for them or for me to withstand it. All of my clothes are huge on me, so I don't look put together in any kind of way. It does a lot.
What more do you wish the town or even the state would be doing for the homeless?
I understand that a lot of homeless are addicted or mentally ill or things like that, but that doesn't mean they don't deserve some kind of housing. I wish the town would put some kind of like rent cap or something, because we're paying high city prices, or people are paying high city prices for rent in a town where the median wage is $8.25.
Wow.
There's just not enough money in the town to support the people. That, if they could somehow handle or cap the price of rent, also free spaces to be during the day, just places to exist without having to look over your shoulder. And for the most part, if you called the cops about somebody out here, say if I called the cops if the man didn't stop coming up with a knife, more than likely we both would have just ended up jailed. The police aren't my friend in any way out here. I could be robbed blind and I wouldn't call them.
And actually, do you think that's worsened since the Supreme Court decision at the end of June? Have you noticed any differences?
Absolutely, I do.
Yeah.
I remember my blood running cold when I heard that, because it meant it was officially illegal for me to exist.
Mm-hmm.
And that came shortly before most of the homeless in this town disappeared. It felt like it gave my town lease to go ahead and ship them out or lock them up.
Right. I mean, I live in California, and they're doing it all over the place here. Like, just walking in San Francisco in areas where there's almost always people with tents, there's nobody there now. And it's really unsettling, because part of you wants to think that they all got housing, but that's not even kind of true. Like, I just don't know
what happened. There's not resources at the moment to house all the people who disappeared.
Exactly.
So they're in jail, or they've been shipped off to some other city to start over completely with no help or network. What
brings you some joy?
I really enjoy engaging with the community. I'm on Reddit a lot just because it lets me talk to people, and I'm not immediately identifiable as homeless. I'm in a home gardening sub giving people advice on snakes because I see them a lot in my life. I've traveled a lot. I'm helping people, and it's nice to know that I can still be productive, even if it's only socially online. It's nice to feel like there's somebody there.
Yeah. You're not being judged for who you are or how you look or anything like that. Yeah. It's nice.
Just judge simply on the merit of what I commented for advice for somebody.
Yeah. So actually, Cyrus, can we get into, what was life like before all of this? Where'd you come from?
I was born in one of the last few sundown towns in Texas, Henderson.
Okay.
Well, I wasn't born there. I was raised there. I was born in Mena, Arkansas. When I was a kid, I stepped out. I remember being 7 and stepping out in Arkansas and seeing a KKK parade.
That is intense.
I remember asking my mom, what are those men doing? And her face going completely pale and telling me to go back inside. And I didn't understand, because I knew that those hoods meant that they didn't like black people, but you weren't black. Why was she scared? And then now that I'm older, I understand she was an immigrant. So that's what terrified.
Yeah.
And we ended up moving to Texas, and it wasn't much better. I remember in my high school, there was a picture of the town of Henderson, welcome to Henderson, with a no blacks after 7 p.m. sign.
Wow.
It's sort of, I don't want to say it radicalized a 7-year-old, but it showed me exactly what I didn't want to be. And growing up, it's not like there wasn't diversity in these towns that I was in. There was at least half the population was black, and I didn't understand how that could exist. At the same time, all these people were here. They were the ones working on your cars and serving you food and checking you out at the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
And it really led to me just kind of going the opposite direction from it. And I found a really good community in queer people and people of color. It's hard out here, especially where we're at, to trust white people. Because I'm white passing, but I'm not white. And I'm terrified people are going to pick up on that. And I know for my part,
yeah.
he's black. He just has to live with that every day out here.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
We're trying to get to the next town over, Nacogdoches. We've got some friends who may let us stay with them over there for a couple weeks so we can set up roots. It is a college town where SFA is located, so it's like a little liberal spot of heaven among the most racist place in Texas. And it's crazy because Lufkin is 20 minutes away from that town, and they are night and day in vibes. Our age, people who are more understanding. It's hard not to side-eye anyone over the age of like 35 anymore, because I don't know if they're going to be mad that I'm homeless, if they're going to be mad that I'm trans, if they're going to be mad that we look like a gay couple, if they're going to be mad that it's an interracial couple. It's hard to trust anyone that looks older. Yep. People may assume I'm white and, be super kind to me, and my partner walk up and their behavior switch completely.
Just completely changes, yeah. Can you tell me a time that stranger actually made your day? Like somebody helped you in a way that you were just not expecting?
That happened earlier today. We had plans to get to the food stamp office, and we were interrupted in those plans. My partner got called into work and forgot to take any kind of tobacco with him to smoke, because when we get low, we'll take a pipe with us to smoke the tobacco if we have to. He stopped in a vape store, and he just asked a woman, like, hey, can I bum a cigarette? Like, I know it's kind of weird. I was on my way to the food stamp office today and got called in, so I didn't have anything on me. And she looked at him and said, no one deserves to be hungry, and then got a bag of food together for him. And for a morning that started off with me looking at a box of instant rice and thinking about how I was going to make it last till Wednesday after next, the fact that I have a bag of chips and a Coke next to me is kind of insane.
That's amazing. So like you had said before, like the people are kind, but the city, the government, those entities are not. And it's like you just have to go out and find the individual slices of kindness wherever you can.
Yes, and we have found really nice sources of kindness. My partner's boss had been where we are at one point and is doing just about everything she can to get us out of it. That's who fantastic. We're going to be ending up around in NAC. And it's been really nice to see that while some people will turn their heads, other people understand that no one is immune from this.
That's exactly the point of my podcast, so people can understand how easily it can happen to anyone.
It's one injury, one check away for just about everyone in this town. Everyone lives paycheck to paycheck, and what happens when that paycheck doesn't come through? It's expensive for.
Well,
especially COVID regulations out here.
Wait, you still have strict COVID regulations now?
We don't have strict COVID regulations in the sense that you need a mask or a vaccination, which I'm lucky for. I can't be immunized, so I'm grateful that there is some level of understanding with that, but I'm also of the accord everyone get back if you can. It helps protect people who can't. But if you were to get sick of COVID out here, your absence would count against you, whether it was done so on paper or not. You would be blamed for getting COVID, which will keep you out until you test negative. I've even heard of places getting 3 days now for COVID. If you're not back to work in 3 days, you will be let go from the local factory here in town.
It takes 5 just to test negative usually. That's ridiculous.
I don't want to name the factory. It's a chicken place. I'll let people guess from there. But it's kind of crazy because most of the breadwinners of this town, most of the people that are making, paying for these little kids to go to school and being part of the community, they're one COVID away from homelessness, all of them.
That's terrifying. And because you don't have strict regulations, the chances of getting it are that much higher for most people too. So
absolutely, especially in factory work, people will be standing elbow to elbow with each other with no mask regulations. And in a southern state, it's just, I don't need that mask. That's the government. And it's like, no, you please need the mask for people like me who can't get immunized.
Yeah.
And it helps everybody. I mean, I've seen people get sick after vaccination, and it's truly not a big, it can be bad, but it's nowhere near as bad. And people still just don't understand, and it's still messing our town up because no one will listen.
Cyrus, I really appreciate you talking to me. Thank you very much for responding to the post.
Absolutely.
It took a lot of pushing for me to actually put it up because I've been knocked down for it before, so I'm really glad people actually responded.
I understand, and don't take that personally. A lot of people are just being treated like shit everywhere and are just afraid that it's a cheat or a lie. It's hard to it's hard to trust people, and I know that if somebody is just asking for a story, I'll tell them.
Before we go, can you tell me what you think the most inaccurate perception of the unhoused is? Like one thing everyone believes that's not true?
That we chose this, or we chose something over housing. Like the old saying, why did you give that homeless person money? They're just going to buy drugs. And it's like, when you have nothing else out there, yes, I might spend $1 someone gives me on a pack of cigarillos because that tobacco lets me de-stress for, 5 minutes out of the day. And people just assume, if they see a cigarette in your hand, you're wasting your money and, you deserve what you ended up with. And no, there's a lot more to it than just the $30 someone spends on a six-pack or a pack of cigarettes every now and then. There's so much more that goes into it. And once you're in the hole, it's nearly impossible to get out of without help. I would say don't assume someone is homeless by their own fault.
Hi again. Thanks for listening. If you know of any unhoused individuals that would like to be interviewed, or you would like to submit an interview yourself, please reach out to us through the website, understandingtheunhoused.org. Click on the contact button, send us a quick message. We'll get back to you as soon as we can and get things moving. Also, while on the site, if you're feeling generous, please click on the donate button. There is a very low overhead for this podcast, but there are costs involved, especially when Wendy and I go out to the unhoused community. We always want to have supplies with us, and funds are always welcome to help that along. Thanks again for listening. I hope after hearing these stories, you will have a little more compassion, a little more empathy, and a better understanding of the unhoused.